Welcome to the Good Karma Sport Fishing Podcast. I'm your host, Captain Ryan Van Fleet. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. I have not been fishing over the past 7 days. I've been recovering from some oral surgery that I had. So I'll be back to fishing here after this wind blows through, and looking forward to the spring transition. With that being said, there was some really good fishing out there. I just want to give a couple shout outs to some guys that I know. Congratulations to Mark down in Marathon, getting on the wahoo bite down there. There was a good wahoo bite down in Marathon last week. Really good. So the guys that got in was an off moon too. So that's pretty killer. So congratulations, Mark, on that big 40 plus pound fish. And then I got some messages from some other guys with some beautiful mutton snapper that were caught. So just, very cool, guys. So I enjoy getting messages from you and hearing about your successes. So while I've been down, I've been, doing my usual thing. I love making sea witches, and that's a good hobby to have, and I really enjoy that. So I tied up a lot of sea witches, and I just keep my mind really busy and just focusing on myself. And with that, I've got to reflect on a lot of funny fishing stuff that's happened over the past couple of years. I've got to fish with some pretty cool people over the years, and some of them have been like, you just never know who's going to jump on your boat and who they are, and it's just been fun learning. And I've learned a lot of life lessons through the years through working with various clients. And I'm often asked what's my, what's been my coolest trip, or I've had so many good trips over the years, and I've met so many cool people. But one of the best fishing trips I ever had was this was many years ago. Melinda and I had always wanted to go to fishing in Cabo, and I had not caught a blue marlin. Okay. I had never caught a blue marlin. I always wanted to catch one, and I always wanted to go to Cabo to go fishing. That was a dream of mine. So Melinda's sister was getting married in San Diego, so we decided to go on a boondoggle, and now boondoggles are called side quests. But we went on a boondoggle trip to Cabo San Lucas. Absolutely an amazing place, just so beautiful. And we booked a couple days to go. Like, we booked one day to go fishing, and this was and Melinda and I went on the trip, and Melinda found some people, and we went, booked them, and the first thing that happened was the guys bypassed the bait boat, and we had paid for live bait, and they they pocketed the money that we gave them as part of the charter to buy the live bait, and they bypassed the bait boat. And then they immediately put the feathers in right at before we even left the canal area. I was like, oh shit. But I'm pretty, one thing we didn't do is we didn't tell them that I was a captain, or we had a charter, that we owned a charter boat. So we just sat down in the chair and we hung out, and I drank some beer and just relaxed, and then we're into it, and I don't have any interaction with the mate or the captain. They're sitting up in the tower. I look up once, and the mate's playing on the phone and not paying attention to anything, and the captain is on his phone as well. Looks like he was texting. But so I'm just like, well, maybe they're just looking for the fish, and I'm like doing my thing. So I'm just having a good time, relaxing. And the next thing I know, I look back, and a marlin. I spot a marlin coming through the spread. I was like, marlin. And if you guys know anything about pitching the marlin in Cabo, is that there's certain times of the year where you need to make a pitch bait to those fish, especially on a full moon. And so that means there has to be a mate at all times down there ready. And sure enough, the marlin came through the spread, and by the time the mate got down put the phone down and came down to the deck, the marlin was gone. And not to mention, we didn't have any live bait that we paid for. So anyways, I just went ahead and just like shrugged it off. I told Melinda, it's like, hey, it happens. It's part of fishing. So we hung with it. And then I noticed that, again, the mate went back upstairs, no interaction. They went and then I didn't see him. And then Melinda looks up at the tower, and the captain's asleep. And the mate's playing on his phone, so the captain put it on autopilot and wasn't paying any sort of attention, has head down, sound asleep. And Melinda looks at me and said, hey, look, and says, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I don't want to, it's Melinda's vacation too. And she's out there with me fishing. So I was like, well, let's just go back to let's call it. Let's go back. It's like, because it's her deal too. It's not just mine. And it's her vacation. And we had a very short amount of time, and she likes to hang out at the pool. And I felt that I was like, yeah, it's no sense in like fucking around. Let's just go back, and we're in for doom here. This is not good. So we told the captain that we want to go back, and that guy moved faster than I've ever seen him move that day. He like popped up, moved, turned around, was wide awake the whole time, and got us back to the dock. So rather than be like, we just basically, I still tipped the normal amount and paid the charter, and we walked away. So, yeah, it was pretty disturbing, but it is what it is. So we went and we enjoyed a nice day at the beach, and like hung out and got to see Cabo a little bit, and and didn't let it wreck our time. So the next morning, I decided that I wanted to go it alone again, and because I was not going to leave Cabo without catching a fish. I didn't care at that point. I just wanted to catch a fish, like anything, like a houndfish, like anything. So I just went down, and I jumped on at the last minute, and some guys said, yeah, sure. So I talked to somebody at the dock, and he sounded pretty good. And I was like, I didn't really know. I was still kind of naive to the whole game of like, honestly, even though I have my own business, I was still naive to like marketing tactics and selling and stuff. So I booked the trip, and we spent most of the time waiting to get gas, and I was like, well, man, my day's already toast. We're missing everything. And so Cabo's a little bit different. And so I just said, let's just go. I just want to catch anything. I just don't want to, like, honestly, I don't care. Just go drop some baits, do whatever. But I just want to see something, like, even if it's just a shit fish, I don't care. So, and I was like, you're still going to tip. I'm still going to tip you the same. So don't, think that this is crazy. I can stop and go to the patch. I can do whatever. But so we went out, and I just said I just didn't want to book a trip just to troll for marlin, because I knew it was probably wrong, and I was just like, after my experience trolling for marlin, I didn't want to I just wanted to catch a fish, really. And there's always something to catch. Always. There's cudas. There's always something's gonna bite. And so you can, or I just wanted to see a bite. I didn't give a shit. So you always do your best, and sometimes you're like, shit just doesn't bite. But anyway, so I got out there, and what did they do? They take me trolling when I didn't want to go trolling. I was like, nah, this is, this is for 4 hours, but they did it anyway, so I didn't say anything. And again, there was no interaction, nothing. The guys went back up in the tower. They sat, didn't talk. There was no communication, and yeah. So on that trip, I got 0 blank too. Not even a bite. So I was like, oh man. So I kind of rubbed a thing about Cabo in a way. It's like, once you have 2 back-to-back experiences like that, you're like, ah. But this is where it gets interesting. Okay? This is where it gets interesting. So Melinda, at that time I think I was in the year 4 of my business. I don't remember. So we at that time, I had Jimmy Jigs at the time, so I think it was like 5. I don't know. The time is like, Melinda gets on my ass because of time, and like I said, I can't remember certain dates, but I can remember certain fish. So we we went to San Diego, had an awesome time. What an awesome place! I would love to go back there sometime and go fishing there and like someday. But enjoyed it, and then we flew back, and then I had to get the boat ready for some trips, and it was dolphin season, so I took the boat out by myself, and sure enough, I was out like 450. We had to push a smaller dolphin, and I caught a marlin by myself. So I traveled all the way to, and I even got a picture of it. And I still got the picture, and I caught it on an adrenaline rod, stand up on a Talica 25. And I remember when I hooked the fish, hooked it on an ugly green sea witch. I call it an ugly stepchild. One of my favorite sea witches for dolphin, and the marlin loved this bait as well. And I caught him on this. I've caught 3 or 4 small blue marlins, and I've caught a couple whites on it, on this bait down here. It's ugly green. It's like a sea witch hair. You wouldn't think anything would even bite it, and it's got like a stripe of chartreuse in it. It's just an awesome bait. And one thing that's cool about it is that I was able to, so I had the rod in one hand, and I snapped the picture in the other hand, and it was my lucky pink rod, and you guys that fish with me know about that lucky pink adrenaline fishing rod. So I was exhausted after that, and then I came home, and it just goes to show you that some of the best fishing is in your backyard, and you just never know, And I had been wanting to knock a blue marlin off my bucket list for several years, and I ended up catching him by myself after I traveled to Cabo and looking for one, because looking for a striped marlin. It was crazy. I didn't get. I got blanked both days on both trips in Cabo. And I hear that too about, like, I've heard some stories about Venice too, and it's like with the tuna fishing there. I've had clients come back and they've gotten blanked on oil rig trips, or the guide doesn't have the permit to catch the snappers, and he puts them on amberjacks, and so there's a lot that goes into those trips. You just gotta, like, before I take another trip like that, I just want to make sure I'm getting a personable captain that that's like talks and has a mate, that if they're working with the mate, that they're personable, and all that stuff. And because that was hard. And one thing I haven't chartered since, I take that back. I did charter Bouncer Smith before he retired, and I have to say it was a very enjoyable trip. And Bouncer is like, he always kept you engaged. He always told stories, and he was just a real personable person. But that was the last time. That was the last trip I booked as a guide. That was the last charter I booked as a guide. Was fishing with Bouncer. So something I will always remember, and I grew up watching him, so it was fun to fish with one of your sport fishing heroes. They say never meet your heroes, but I'm glad I met Bouncer and a few other guys that I've had some interactions with that I have always looked up to in the industry as being industry pioneers. So that's all I got for today, guys. You can follow me on Instagram, Good Karma Sport Fishing _FL_keys. Make sure to give me a follow on YouTube as I look to create some more content on there. And remember, leave those small fish for the boat behind you. And most importantly, anytime you're fishing, it's all good.